Okay, here goes. Okay, here we go. This is exactly what they did on the QE2. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to recite for you a monologue. A monologue entitled Two Little Snakes Hissing in a Pit. I think I should have stopped right there. Two little snakes hissing in a pit. There they were, hissing in the pit. And the mummy snake came out and said, "How many times have I told you two little snakes, stop hissing in that pit? Go to Mrs. Potts' pit and have a hiss in there." So the two little snakes slithered over to Mrs. Potts' pit for a hiss. And when they were hissing in Mrs. Potts' pit, out came Mrs. Potts, and Mrs. Potts said, "How many times have I told you two little snakes, stop hissing in this pit, go back to your own pit and have a hiss in there." So the two little snakes slithered back to their own pit for a hiss, and when they were hissing in their pit, out came the mummy snake again. The mummy snake said, "How many times have I told you two little snakes, stop hissing in this pit, go to Mrs. Potts' pit and have a hiss in there." But then we did go to Mrs. Potts' pit for a hiss, and when we were hissing in her pit, she told us to stop hissing in her pit and to go back to her own pit for a hiss. She said, "That's typical of Mrs. Potts. I remember her, she didn't have a